right. So, wow, where does that... So, welcome to this little talking thing that Matías and I are doing. Say hi, Matías.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the talking thing. We're talking.
The talking thing, yes. So, it has been 7 weeks to the day since Twin Portals has been together and recorded something. It was the first Sunday of March where we had our last live show at the Teatro. It was an awesome show. One of my favorites I think we've ever done. No worries about spoilers now because this is going in after the last track. So yeah, So Lark got disintegrated. We took a little bit of a break. A couple weeks later, I thought to Matías, you know what? We got a little bit of data left on our podcast. Let's do something like a quick talk, me and you, see where we're at. Because it's been a while. We've gone through quite a bit of stuff and kind of get together and just shoot the shit and see how we're feeling. And
yeah, and I just miss you. Like I miss everyone so much. If we do another one of these, you should have the whole group on if we can. Like
I'd love to. Technical considerations is my only thing.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah, and then Matías uses basically the same type of setup. He's got the same microphone. We're doing this on. We're both running Audacity on our home computers, and then he'll send me his file, and I'll do some magic and put them together, make it kind of sound like we're in the same room. Mm-hmm. But this is as good as we can do right now because a few weeks ago the whole world changed, and we're just trying to deal with that.
Lark died.
Lark died, and then
everything went to shit. Yeah.
Yep, it all starts spiraling out of control. It's just unreal. So Matías and I had each written out a handful of questions for the other because we have different roles. I'm a player and I do the bulk of the recording and editing, all the recording and editing. And Matías, Dungeon Master, and runs all the games and has had to learn how to DM for a recorded podcast and then a live show. And so we kind of wanted to do a little talking back and forth, see what we think about what we've learned, where we come from, suggestions, that kind of stuff.
Let's do it. Let's get to the skinny.
Oh my God, this is so weird. All right. Let's see. Here's my first question I had for Matías. I said, compared to a home game with minis and popcorn and dogs, what sticks out to you? Yeah, one dog in particular, Sylvie. I miss Sylvie. What sticks out to you as the biggest challenge in preparing for a live game of Dungeons & Dragons?
The biggest challenge of preparing for a live game of D&D.
And so let's actually do this in two parts. What for like a recorded podcast? What is there any tweaks you have for that? And then for in front of an actual audience with expectations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, for the recorded episodes, there's a lot more freedom. You know, like if we need to take a break. Or like I need to take a break, especially like if, the plot goes in a weird direction and I don't have anything planned, or like I'm trying to make up something that's really interesting and feels like I've thought it through for weeks to you guys. It's helpful to take like a 5-minute break. And we've done that in the past. In a live show, that is not an option. So you have to like really be prepared enough to turn on a dime and make the audience feel or think, or at least like hope that you are ready for whatever the players are doing, because like D&D in the end, it's a small group improv exercise that's normally done with low to zero stakes between friends around a table. And when you're doing a podcast, there's another friend that's sitting perched at the end of the table with their ears cupped, like listening and nodding or ignoring you and working or playing Animal Crossing or whatever, who knows. But I mean, so there's kind of like, you got to consider that other player that's not actually playing when you're doing a show, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as the DM goes, that just means being extra prepared and really having all your characters down and trying to make sure that whatever happens, you don't have to waste time or pause the game, because that other player, the audience, is listening, and if they have to sit through dead space, which normally we can edit out in a recorded episode, then that's going to be not fun for them in a live show. Mm-hmm. So that's the big difference, is really like in a live show, I try to at least have the arc of the episode be closed enough that I know what kind of monsters or enemies you guys are going to run into, or what kind of encounters you're going to run into, with some leeway. and I print out all of the monster stats ahead of time. I write everything out behind my DM screen. Like I have it all right there, all the maps annotated with different things that might come up. And I generally have like, for a live show, like at least like 5 to 10 really big plot points or encounters that I really want you guys to hit or to run through in some form or another. It doesn't, like, how you approach them is always different than what I have written down. Mm-hmm. I lost my train of thought. I'm going to have a drink of Duluth Cider Company cider. 1 second.
It's all good. So you've got 5 to 10 plot points, like big kind of set piece moments for a live show, which is only 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we go for. I would, let me ask for the last one, if you can remember it, about how many of those 5 to 10 do you think we hit?
Oh, gosh. Well, there's, let's see. There 1, 2, 3, 4... About 4 or 5. But yeah, I mean, I try to write, so for the live shows also, because they're 2 hours, they're shorter. That's another big consideration. You want to try to have a full arc from start to finish. And in the recorded episodes, we approach it differently. We try to tell a longer story, like an actual at-home D&D game. And so there's that difference in focus and in pacing.
Yeah, I was going to say, and for the live shows, because we are using a rented space, it's like a hard 2.5 hours. So we aim for 2 hours, thinking we're going to do we're going to shoot for a 5-minute intermission, but that's going to turn into 15 because we've all been in theater before. We know how it goes. Yeah. So you try to scrape it down. Have you had to make any big adjustments for the second act, like of any of the live shows?
Yes, all of them.
Really?
So I was going to say, I have 5 to 10 major points that I really want to hit, but then I usually have 20 or 30 oh, this would be cool if this happened or if this happened. Jesus. And, I write it out act by act, and I also make a little chart with each character, and I think so in these situations, what would be fun for this character and for that character, and what's a highlight moment that I could give to that character to make it more interesting for them, or to give them a moment in the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Because for that's how TV shows are written too, each supporting character gets their own spotlight moment. Sometimes in a serial TV show, you have a whole spotlight episode for each character. We don't really have the airtime to do that. I guess we could, but
now we might be able to.
Yeah, we haven't really done that yet. Maybe we will. Who knows? But for the live show, I try to at least make sure everyone gets a moment, and I try to write in a few of them so that whatever happens, I can at least fit one of them in for everyone. And I've done a pretty good job of that.
I feel like it's gone
some misses.
Yeah, no, I think it's gone pretty well, especially for the live shows. During the recorded shows, it's kind of easy for a player to kind of get set to the side, and I'm always happy when it's me because I'm like, perfect, I can listen to the quality now and check for things and stuff like that, and actually think about the story for a second because I'm usually focused on 2 different things at once. So
yeah. And the recorded episodes are better for that. You can take more time and kind of give a player a couple minutes to just talk to a pigeon or whatever is fun that you can do in D&D, fuck around with Terry. He's a riot, man.
We've definitely had long moments in the recorded sessions of just okay, we're going to take a little break and I got to look this up, or I got to figure out my character sheet or something like that. And I'm like, cool. Yeah,
we do a lot more rules checking in the pre-recorded episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good question 1.
Okay, I got a question 1 for you as well, my friend.
Go for it.
Okay, here's what I have written from March 2nd.
Yes.
What have been the most surprising parts of learning to play a character in a live show versus an at-home D&D game? How does your approach to playing the game change? Kind of the same question, but from your perspective.
Yeah, a little bit. So for me, it's kind of odd in that I am monitoring. Before, I was just monitoring one input. I was just monitoring one Blue Yeti microphone, which is what we're recording on now. And that was picking up all 5 voices. But after we got the grants, then I had 5 microphones to monitor, plus the Yeti as a backup, so 6, and now off of 2 devices. And then I'm still trying to play D&D and trying to be an entertaining member of this team. Right. Learning to do that has been, you know what? When I learn how to do it, I'll let you know. It's
a lot of attention juggling. Yeah.
It is, yeah. You kind of have to know one of the things by the back of your hand, and I'm kind of a stats whore. I always have been in D&D. I'm the guy who I'm making a character, and I haven't even sat down for the first gaming session. I'm at level 1, and I have a spreadsheet that's got all the things I'm going to pick all the way through level 20. That's the kind of guy I am. For actually playing, when I'm actually doing a thing, what I learned, especially off of this last show, was that it's for doing it for a podcast, just jumping in and making a big choice. This is kind of a classic improv thing. Just jumping in and doing something is so much more interesting than wondering. It's like, I think about that last moment when I speared the mind flayer into the pool, and I hemmed and hawed about whether or not to do the spear while just like openly. It's like the spotlight was on me, and I'm like, I don't know, should I? No, if I had just gone, all right, I'm just going to Goldberg spear this guy into the pool, and I don't know, maybe I'll dissolve.
Yeah.
Matías wouldn't kill off a character. What am I worried about?
These are the lessons you learn playing D&D or doing improv. Tell like theater in general. You just got to make the big choice.
Yeah, just kind of jump in and go for it. It's been. Let's see. What was the rest of the question here? Most surprising parts of learning to play a character in a live show.
Just how does your approach to playing the game change? Which you kind of touched on, like surprising parts. Like in an at-home game, you have the whole stat sheet kind of set up, and
what I've learned for a podcast and doing this in the live show is, again, the importance of making sure everybody gets their beats. Everyone gets their moments and you don't step on their moments. If somebody's jumping in and they got an idea, just cool, let them go with it. Support, or if you're not sure about it, you're full force on that too, you know.
Yes.
Justin had that great one when he said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm only level 4 in the middle of the last game. I'm just like, yeah, we should have listened to Justin, but I didn't know where else we should have gone.
Justin should have listened to Justin.
God bless him. He just went so forward.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right. So that's a good way to approach it, especially for a live show.
Yeah, I enjoy when everybody gets their shots, when everyone gets their moments, and sometimes it irks me a little bit now when people don't let others have their moments, and I have to I start looking forward to myself, making sure I'm not doing that. I used to have, in fact, I haven't played like a home game in a while. This has basically been my only D&D game going on for like the past year or so since our home game sort of hit the skids. Matías and I are in a home game that he DMs, and we've been falling out of the sky for about 9 months. I think
7. There was a baby born.
7 months.
Yeah, that campaign actually ended with this floating city falling towards Waterdeep. So what I'm waiting for is the confluence of these two campaigns. Just you wait.
Let's move on. My next question for you is Swoj in the campaign, or developing wise, or in your whole vision for how you think this was supposed to go, is Swoj anywhere near where you thought they'd be about a year and a half later?
In some ways, yes.
Yeah.
In terms of like level and general location, yeah. Yeah.
Numbers and geography. Yep.
In terms of like the choices they made and their general ethics and approach towards dealing with things in the game. Yeah, honestly, I mean, you guys have made some surprising choices for sure.
Do you have one that sticks out the most?
Sure. Terry the Zuber driver and his general involvement in everything. You guys kind of just welcomed him in, and he was just like trusted him instantly, and you really put a lot of loving on him, and he became a major character due to that, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorites. You never know what he's going to do. He's been a golden retriever. He's been a horse. He's just been kind of kicking around as I always kind of picture him as a head crab from Half-Life.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. That's what intellect devourers are. Yep.
Yeah.
Except they go inside. They don't perch.
No.
Yeah. But let's see. Any huge diversions? I don't know. I mean, the campaign itself, I didn't have a really clear, like, this is how it's going to be in a year. I just knew, like, I wanted you guys to kind of, like, do the gumshoe work, you know, and, like, I hoped you'd take charge of the tavern or, like, have some investment in it. But if not, you know, we'd find another thing to do and another thing to have fun with. So, like, I haven't been married to any ideas. Like even the official module that the campaign is based on, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, is written with 4 main villains and four seasons of play. Like when you start it, they encourage the DM to pick a season and a certain villain, and then structure the whole campaign around that villain. And then there's other adaptations of it where they use like all 4 villains, or they cycle around and play them against each other. And I don't want to spoil too much, but
I so badly want to go read it now.
you will. I'm sure you will.
I'm not. No, I won't.
I mean, like in the future, like
yes.
When you do, it's going to be really fun. Believe me.
Yeah. I love digging into modules, looking at stuff like that.
This module is great. It's more of a source book than a module, which is perfect for the podcast. Like there's a rough plot, but it's really like these are all suggestions. Do what you want. Here's this city with all these cool people.
I had played the Curse of Strahd on an online campaign using Roll20 once, and after we went through an area, and I was confident we weren't going back there, I would open up the book just to see what else was there, things like that, see just how much we actually hit.
Don't do that with Dragon Heist. Do not, because
I won't.
It's such a circular, spiral-y book.
I don't even have it. I don't even have access to it.
I will say the one behind the screen hint I will say is that when I started out, I had one main villain in mind, but that has changed since the campaign started.
Okay,
like probably
we've pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, you made a lot of good friends too, though. Okay, I got one for you.
All right.
In a different direction, what do you do to get in the zone while you're editing the show? What's your zen?
If I am in the zone, I have nothing else around. That's the thing, is that if I've gone through a few different phases on this, of when I started out, I was trying to take out every single and break and pause and things like that. And it was so labor intensive, especially when you're dealing with just the one track. You would think one track would be easier, and in some senses it was, but you've got so little control over it when you're dealing with one area mic, because this thing, you can't, like, it's either you're cutting this whole big section off or you're leaving it in, but there's not a whole lot you can do to tweak it. You have to play with the gains and the envelope tool in Audacity a lot if you're going to kind of get that specific. So when I'm in the zone, I'm actually just listening to the podcast. And if I'm being at my most productive, I'm taking notes for myself to use in the next one. If I'm not, then I'm playing. Stardew Valley was a lot of fun because that would auto pause when you weren't in the window. So I would just be listening, and then and then farming at the same time and just kind of having at it.
And you haven't had to edit an episode since Animal Crossing came out, so I mean, game changer. Speaking of, if anybody's listening and wants to play Animal Crossing with us, we are all on Discord and we share turnip prices every single day. So that's the plug. Yeah,
we're it's kind of gold farming basically.
Yeah,
a little bit. So that's kind of what it's like for me. Let's see. Off the rails. How off the rails do we get from your plans? We kind of covered this a little bit.
Yeah. Very. There have been times where you guys were just like completely off the rails. I don't know. Honestly, each episode I kind of structured differently. The live shows are very structured. You know, they're very much like, here's the points I want to hit, start and finish, and how we get there is up to you guys. But then the recorded episodes, some of them I have a very clear plan for. It's like, this is the one where this is going to happen and everything surrounding this event. Or this is the one where, like, we're going to find out this, and this, and do the investigative work to get there, or encounter this certain enemy or friend or whatever. Some episodes I'm like, okay, there's like a lot of stuff they could do right now, and that they made such a mess the last episode or whatever. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to prepare a bit of all these things, and then see what choices they make, and we'll just go from there. And those are more improv-y episodes, and those are really fun too. I like doing it all those different ways and kind of seeing what happens. It's kind of an experiment. For the recorded episodes, what's the most amount of work you have had to do during our break between the first hour and the second hour? Like, because you talk about correcting a little bit and adjusting and improving. But so when we do our recorded sessions, we generally record for an hour to an hour and a half and then take a break and then another hour to hour and a half. And so my question is, in the middle of that, how much, when we're just sipping water and eating cookies, how much you just like erasing and scribbling down new notes? A good amount. I like to take a break too. But I will say, like, the episode, just as an example, the episode where you guys raided the Graalhund Villa, There were a lot of moving pieces in that episode, some that you aren't even aware of, oddly enough. And so it was like, okay, so based on the choices they've made, this party is here, this party is here, this party is there. They got about 5 minutes before this happens. Like, I tried to really keep it tight on that one. So there was a lot of note taking there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And kind of a follow-up on this. How does that compare to your home games when you don't have a recording going and no audience to worry about?
Oh, well, my home games are a bit different because I always ran them like kind of, well, a bit of a mix, like for the players and for myself. And I feel like I've grown as a DM from doing Twin Portals because I've been a bit less of a selfish DM since I started. Because I would always kind of have like big ideas for like the story and the world, and I'd kind of try to shoehorn them into the campaign, despite what my players were interested in. And that's a DM party foul. You know, you should always, as a DM, it's really your job to make sure everyone's having fun and to, you know, make sure everyone's telling the story they want to together. So if you're doing stuff as a DM that makes that harder for people, you should check yourself. And in my home games, I've been guilty of that. I've also been guilty of, well, I'm not guilty of. I also generally just do things very freeform. So I try to listen to my players and see what they want to do. Sorry, my phone just vibrated on the table, so I'm gonna back that up a little bit.
That's all. I've been playing with a pocket knife here, and I just realized I won't be able to hear if it's actually coming across. It's like the first 25 minutes, there might be a squeaking noise going on. I was gonna go ahead.
You go ahead.
They're so nice, so Minnesotan. I was gonna say, talking about giving the players what they want. I was at PAX West 2018. I was at a DMing panel, and Jeremy Crawford was up there, and he gave this fantastic story about how he has on numerous occasions sat behind the DM screen while his players were talking out what could possibly be happening. And Jeremy Crawford would write down, okay, that's what's going to happen now. And so he effectively let the players write the campaign or the story for him in real time. And then once they got there, all the players felt really smart, and it made him look like he was real good. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, of course. That's like DM 101. Yeah, that's like the oldest trick in the book. Not just for DMing, but for like salesmanship, you know, like any kind of, like, listen to your audience and then give them what they want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You tool.
Hey, man. It's called empathy, sort of.
Whatever. It works.
Okay, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Well, you also already touched on this one a little bit, but while you're editing the podcast and you have a track in your ear, what do you listen for specifically? Like, what sort of moments do you focus on? Do you spend more time editing, or what do you cut short?
So if and this really comes into play if I am actually doing something else, if I am playing Stardew Valley, or if I am playing Animal Crossing, something like that, I have effectively kind of tuned out a bunch of the stuff that's happening, right? So I'm listening then for excessive ums or pauses over, believe it or not, like 0.8 of a second. That's about how long my ear will perk up and go, wait, what was that? That was quiet for a while. And so I'll stop what I'm doing and then quickly, kind of hotkey some stuff, go back a little bit and figure out how long that pause was, why was it that long, and would it feel as natural if it was shorter? Because I feel like there's such a thing as having a recording too tight. Taking out those pauses, natural pauses for reactions and thoughts and things like that, I find jarring.
Definitely.
So I leave some in. Things that I will straight up cut. And to that is probably my biggest time sink. I listen straight through. There's before I do a couple things, I'll do like a noise reduction. I might normalize things like that, technical tools that are in Audacity, which is what I use to edit everything. But that's kind of what I end up listening to, or talking over each other. If there's a way for me to edit it out, I try to. It's a little easier now with 5 mics. but it's still not perfect because we don't have a great studio. We're just, one big echoey room, so things still kind of bounce around. I have more control than I used to.
Okay. But you generally leave like the gameplay elements and the story kind of as they are, as much as it makes sense to, unless there's like a huge gap. Think
we don't have as a team, we don't have a good sense of not speaking to events. I mean, when something happens, bam, it's happened. It's hard. I won't speak for everybody else, but for me, it's really hard to say, okay, that didn't happen, and so we can't talk about that now going on. Unless there's been like a stop and start moment. Like, believe it or not, we had a moment, not the last show before the last, like 2 episodes ago, the power went out while we were recording. I think it was a circuit breaker went in the teatro, and boom, all the lights go off in the room that we're recording, so it's completely dark because there's no exterior windows. So the only light is the laptop, because the laptop's got a battery in there. I run everything off of AC power, but I have batteries in there. We actually, because everything was running off a battery, we didn't lose any data. We could have just kept going without being able to see our notes. But we waited, and a couple minutes later, the lights come back on. And so now we go, okay, what the fuck were we talking about? So we can try to make this sound natural. And I think it came off pretty good.
But that kind of situation, you want to avoid that as much as you can.
As much as you can, because it's so awkward. Because you take 20 seconds to think, okay, what was the last thing that we were working on? What was the last thing that was said? Things like that. And then you're like, oh. Yeah. And then you got to try to play it back forward naturally. But when you start and stop, I think we all have a tendency to do different things with our voices. Like, we are performing for somebody who is already here. And I'm as guilty as you, but you're more guilty because you do it more. You do it more fair. Drastically.
I'll take that. Thank you.
So we're both guilty, but you're more guilty.
Okay.
Is how I'm going to put that from an editor's point. And things I'll just straight up cut. If I say a joke that I hate later on, I will straight up cut it. Because nice. I hate that joke. I think it's stupid. It wasn't funny. I don't know what I was doing. I'm just going to cut this out, and then no one will react to the thing that was not said. But I don't know if anybody else feels that way about their jokes. I mean, if there's some things like, we don't have a big problem with this, but sometimes we might think, oh, maybe that was not exactly the PC thing to say. I'm going to try to rephrase that. And then somebody will rephrase that. And if I hear that in the recording, I know, okay, this person clearly does not want that to be said, so I'm going to take all that out.
So when you say Scoot is succinct, that's what you meant. He's actually well edited.
Yeah, I'm going to, my next show that we do, it's going to be like 6 words tops.
You should make a mashup of all the Scoot outtakes.
I stutter a lot. And that's what I love about Scoot, is that it's just so me, it's just me and my character personally just trying to get out. So just all those stupid interactions I have. Basically, that's just Scott. And basically, that's where the name Scoot came from. Is
I mean, I was going to say.
We were talking in Discord, talking about names, and Kendra Carlson had typed up my name, and she'd misspelled it as Scoot. I'm like, well, that's that. Mm-hmm. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Let's see. A lot of these are kind of overlapping, so we'll see how this one goes. But this one kind of, for you, kind of goes to prep work. So let's say I'm about to start DMing a podcast and eventually a live show. Starting out, first steps. What's your advice for me? What was a mistake that you might have made that you have easily corrected now that you would advise me to not do early on?
A mistake specifically?
It's a mistake. Like, it doesn't have to be something you did. It can just be like, here's something I learned early on. And when once you're starting off with this, just try to get in this habit.
I don't know. I guess a big part of it was that when me and you first talked about this whole idea and like we got excited about it, like I started preparing at length for a totally different story, like a jungle campaign based on the Tomb of Annihilation book.
Oh.
And like I poured over like all the other DM accounts and maps. Like when we sent out we sent a questionnaire out to different people to like find out who's interested in this kind of thing. at the end of it, I had like a little bit of flavor text, like, thank you, you find this mysterious coin. And the coin was like of a dinosaur or something, like from the Tomb of Annihilation campaign.
Oh, that's right.
And then we had our session 0 with our players, and we talked about what everyone else wanted to do. And together, and I left it really open. I didn't even like bring that up as like, this is what I really want to do, because I genuinely wanted to learn what everyone else had in mind. And we settled upon the heist, Waterdeep Dragon heist, like an urban, more like contained story. And I'm so glad we did, because I think it's totally the right thing for the format. But it means that I wasted a lot of time reading about the Tomb of Annihilation campaign and Jungle D&D. And so,
but that's not wasted, because
right.
You've still got that knowledge and that passion, and you're going to put that into a future project.
For sure. I just mean in terms of like time efficiency more than anything.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, I don't know. I could have done a lot more preparation during that time for what we actually are doing.
So figure out what your players want to do before you tell them what they're going to do.
That's part of it. I mean, mainly just like talking to your players, like having a session 0 as soon as you can. For anyone who's not familiar with the concept of a session 0, that's just where you get together with your party, and before you're even in character or playing the game, you just sit around the table and talk about what everyone wants out of a campaign. It's the first time I'd ever done one, actually. It was for Twin Portals, and I think it was so valuable. You know, it really lets you gauge how the whole thing is going to go and what everyone wants out of it. And you can use that to frame your entire, you know, all that. Like, D&D is a time-consuming, you know, thing. It requires a lot of investment from everyone. And so the more that you can try to include everyone and what they want to get out of it in your story that you're writing, or in the character that you're playing and how they're connected to everyone else, the better it's going to be and the more fun it's going to be for everyone. So it's really valuable.
Session 0 was something that another thing I took away from when I was out at PAX. My first PAX was in 2015, and I learned a lot about Twitch streaming, and I did that for a couple of years. I obviously didn't have too much success, but I had fun, and I learned a lot, especially about audio design and microphones, things like that. Yeah. And then when I went out again in 2018, we had already kind of been talking about the possibility of putting together an actual podcast. I think we had been playing our campaign for about 6 months, once or twice a month. And we had already kind of kicked around some ideas, and I'm like, well, I have an old ass laptop and I have a Blue Yeti. It's omnidirectional. I mean, we could just sit there, you know, find a place, find some people, figure it out. And so ended up going to all these DM podcasts, Dungeons and Dragons panels out at PAX, of which there were many. And then I had never heard of Session 0. And man, when I thought, I was like, wow, that would have fixed so much stuff in our home game to start out with, you know? Mm-hmm. Totally. Just kind of getting together with people and talking about expectations and, okay, well, what's your focus? Oh, you want loot? Okay. Do you just want to bash things? Okay. Oh, you want romance? Okay. You want to be a skill monkey? Okay. Now let's see if now the DM knows where we're starting at. And it's also up to us to let the DM know if our interests change while the campaign's going on as well. Yeah. So, but having that and figuring out relationships, who you are and who you are to others before you're sitting there for the first session. Oh my God. Oh, all that story prep work done beforehand. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. And it didn't even need to be that much. Like in Twin Portals, we didn't even have like a huge backstory between each other's characters, really. It was just like, oh, I know you from this and I know you from that. You know?
Yeah, that was about it. It's like I knew Lark and that was it. And we just happened to, you know, ran into everybody at the Yawning Portal, and off we went. All right. What you got?
Okay. I have a similarly phrased question for you. Okay. I'm about to edit a recorded tabletop role-playing game. What are your hot tips for me?
As an editor, producer, that sort of stuff?
From your perspective, yeah, from the things that you've worked on. For someone who's just starting out.
There's a lot of teaching that goes in. It's like, well, we can't do this because of this. This sounds like this, and so we're gonna try to do this. There's a lot of human mistakes, and being a good teacher will allow you to smooth those out earlier. I had some rough moments early on because I was just like, God, that sounds terrible. A lot of it was on me. Check out YouTube videos too while I'm thinking about it. Since we're dealing with the technical side of it, watch a YouTube video on recording a podcast or setting up audio equipment or what you're supposed to look for in a waveform, things like that. Because my first one, I had the audio waveform in Audacity just spiking the whole damn time. I mean, just maxing out. My gains were set way too high. I had to spend so much longer editing down because it was a lousy product from my end to begin with. So if you take some extra time, look at some walkthroughs on things like that, do some test recordings, do some test editing, spend, at least 2. Your first one is not going to come out probably that great if you've never done it before. Learn, do it again, and then see how that second one comes out. Now you've just saved yourself a shitload of time on your first episode.
Amen.
Yeah. What else we got here? Oh, let's get in some more fun stuff. Matías, what is your favorite? This is a triple. Well, it's more like a double. What is your favorite class, first of all? What's your favorite? Let's start with D&D, if it's just D&D first. What's your favorite D&D class?
Well, that changes a lot, honestly. I haven't had one like my whole life. I don't have like one class that's like who I am. I've always gravitated towards bards, of course.
Of course. Why of course?
Because I relate to the class a lot. I enjoy performing and like the whole idea of like the power behind music and words and like not being too, brute forcey and not too analytical, but rather just like feeling things out using empathy.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of like what that's like according to a bard, like magic is that, it's like connecting with people. Yeah. Which is beautiful to me. And there's just a lot of fun tricks they get. Bards are kind of jack of all trades, so you can really make a character who's called a bard, but they can be like anything. You can be like just like a gruff, like curmudgeon who like lives at home. That's just I'm speaking from experience right now, based on where I am in life. But like anybody, I don't know. I guess my point is that like you don't have to like be like the classic like horny bard or like bouncing off the walls to like be a charismatic character.
You mean like a jester?
Yeah, you just have to have some kind of way to connect with people. Yeah. And that can take a lot of different forms. Even the musical component to me is kind of optional, even though like so much of it, it's like, here's your instrument and you have to be playing or singing to be a bard. And that's like kind of how it was mechanically, historically. To me, that is just kind of a flavor of what the class's mechanics are. And you could do it many different ways. You could do it through like poetry or through written word or anything like, anyway, so that's bard. But right now, honestly, I was playing a campaign with Patrick, and I made a paladin character, and I kind of really enjoyed it. Really? Which is ironic to me. Like, I never really connected with the paladin class because they were always like, oh, you've got to be lawful, and you've got to be really stuck up to be a paladin, basically. But turns out in 5th edition, you don't have to be lawful aligned anymore. You can really be whoever you want to be. And paladins, their magic, instead of being like divine, like really divine in nature, or like based on like their code of laws. I mean, paladins have oaths in 5th edition D&D, but still, the source of their power and their strength isn't like any god or any specific written down code of laws, as much as it is like their own beliefs in themselves or in whatever they value. Like it's just like this sort of like force of will that makes them magical, which is like really like not very defined in the player's handbook. Even it's just kind of like every paladin really believes something very strongly, and they use this to protect their friends, to hurt people, to learn things, to deal with life, and that speaks to me a lot right now. Like I've found myself committing to more and more things as I go in life, and questioning whether I believe myself or believe in these things or not. And most of the time I do, but just that whole philosophy of really doubling down on your beliefs speaks to me. And also their class mechanics are like really freaking strong. So there's that too. Like paladins are really good. they can do it all, man.
My first 5th edition character was a paladin. I was a stand-in character for some of my friends on Twitch. They were playing a Roll20 campaign. Their DM was over in England. And so I started out as a 6th level, I think, paladin, something like that. Nice. And my problem was that I think I was in there with like a monk and a rogue and all these people who can move 100 feet a turn.
Oof.
And I'm just lumbering behind, sword and shield. Hey guys, wait up.
That's a situation where the DM could help if they were on it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I kind of still have that in my head a little bit. And I think I was playing one of the nature. There's a nature paladin, correct?
Yep.
If I remember.
Yep.
And if you're unfamiliar, if you haven't looked at there's something called the Unearthed Arcana that's Wizards of the Coast constantly putting out. There's all these technically unofficial, but we're trying it out. Different classes, subclasses, things like that. And the paladins have gotten quite a few, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They're doing all sorts of different ones now.
Yep. Yeah. Like the one that I'm playing in this campaign is called Oath of Redemption. They have an interesting ability where it's been a while since we played, so maybe I'm going to say it wrong now, which sucks for all of our D&D fans. But basically, it's like whenever a friend of yours nearby you gets hurt, you can like invoke your belief to like rebound all of that damage back at enemies, which means that like if you get hit by like a really powerful dragon attack, you can reduce the damage to yourself and then reflect the full damage back at the dragon, like with no resistances.
Wow.
And so you can do like 100 damage to things easy. And there's like different ways to kind of influence that and pump it up. But this whole class is built around like taking the hits for your friends. It's like a really, really ultimate tank kind of class. But with a lot of fun perks like that damage reflection thing that kind of makes it like a really engaging tactical thing and not just like a meat shield.
Nice.
So yeah.
OP,
anyway.
please nerf.
Yeah. You have to be okay with getting hit and like not just being like a badass, a badass at getting hit, which is really fun to me. Like you just kind of like run. It's kind of like if Lark was this class, man, it would be perfect because you just like get everyone's attention and then like suffer, and that's like their whole belief.
Maybe it could be reincarnated into a different class.
Multi-class.
So, something with a heavy armor. And I was also going to ask, do you have a favorite campaign or a setting, any sort of fantasy?
That's what I was going to ask you.
As long as it's for gaming, yeah, we can combine these.
A favorite setting for fantasy. Of all
for gaming.
Fantasy. Oh, for gaming.
Okay. Gaming, yes. Not. Yeah, I don't care about your fancy books.
Okay. Well, for gaming, I gotta say it's the Forgotten Realms. You know? Keeping it close to home. I like them because they're very broad and they're very tropey and they have room for everything. Yeah. And they also have years and years and years of history to them. So they give you both the freedom to make up whatever you want to within the setting and also the existing lore to kind of like pick and choose stuff that other people have already done. And it already kind of exists as this weird like amalgam of different people's creativity, you know? Like it's not like Ed Greenwood, I think officially kind of like started it, but then it's been adapted by so many other writers and DMs, and over the years it's become its own thing kind of, and that to me is really beautiful.
Nice. All right, what did you have for me? Same.
Well, I was going to ask you kind of the same thing. Like, do you have a favorite tabletop RPG setting or module, whether that's like homebrewed or published, like any specific game that you played in a certain setting that you loved?
Something I have always been into is cyberpunk.
Yeah.
I loved, and this started with Shadowrun for the Super Nintendo. Love that game. I still actually own the cartridge, and I have another copy of it on a USB because I kickstarted the Shadowrun reboot on PC when that came out 5 years ago or so, I think, by Harebrained Games. Harebrained Games, one of those two. I just love it. There's so much possibility when you're fusing. If you're not familiar, Shadowrun is the fusing of technology and mythical creatures. We have just F this world, you know, I think we just screwed this world up so hard that all these mythical creatures start popping out of the earth. You're talking elves and orcs and dwarves. One of the mottos of Shadowrun is never make a deal with a dragon. That kind of stuff. I mean, you think all the top CEOs like Jeff Bezos, he would probably be a dragon. He would be a full-on scheming, all-powerful dragon. So me and the same Twitch buddies who I play D&D with on Roll20, we tried to get a game of Shadowrun. I think they're also on 5th edition going. So I got the core rulebook for that. And it is the most dense thing I have ever seen. I think I could pick up physics before I could learn these rules. We tried it, and we made it, I want to say 90 minutes in, and we're like, fuck it, this ain't going to work.
Is it like really like numerically complex, or is it just like there's so many different like
so many
like
options.
subsystems. Yeah, like you just have
Yep.
like open up to a new section for like shaking someone's hand, and then for like
Oh God. I mean, you think about all the pieces of equipment that you could wear as a D&D character. Now think about, you've got sunglasses, hats, implants, cybernetic arms, legs,
yeah.
eyes, hidden compartments for these things, hacking. There's all these different rules for hacking, working with being a decker, which is drones, things like that. You've got magic. You've got a couple different types of magic, if I remember correctly, because you have shamans and wizards. Some of them are using ley lines. Some of them are using spirit points. And you still have combat. You still have combat, and you've got all the combat. You've got unarmed. You got melee. You got swords, electric swords. You got pistols. You probably got nunchucks in there, all the rocket launchers. Oh, vehicles. And all the things you could put in a vehicle as well. I mean, it was just, there are so many options. I mean, it's if that's your thing, it's like it's a dream come true, because there's all these different things, and everything's got a value. And there's rules about how much stuff you can have equipped before you start losing humanity, things like that. And the possibilities. I mean, that's if I was ever smart enough and had the time, that's what I'd want to get into. But it was just so hard. The whole thing runs on a D6, is my understanding. Just many D6s.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, still love the games. Still love the put all the numbers in the background. And I'm sure shit gonna buy Cyberpunk when that comes out later this year.
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. Love Deus Ex. Love the Shadowrun games. Love the reboot games. All that stuff. I think it's gonna be fantastic.
Love The Witcher.
The Witcher, yes. I've been working my way through The Witcher again. Also made by CD Projekt Red. Watch the show. All that good stuff. That's what we've been killing our time with. All right, where were we?
I think it was your turn.
All right. Let's see. Who are your live D&D inspirations?
Ooh, fun. Let's see. My biggest inspirations would have to be number one, Chris Perkins in everything that he does.
Yep.
He is my favorite. I love what he does. Yeah. Love hearing him talk. He's just brilliant. For those of you who don't know him, he's one of the lead writers for Wizards, and he also ran Acquisitions Incorporated for a long time as the DM. He also ran a side game called the Dice Camera Action.
Dice Camera Action, that's right. DC8.
Yep. Which was put on hiatus recently, and I'm not sure, I haven't checked in with him in a few months now, so I'm not sure what he's doing these days. I know he had a couple big projects in the works, aside from all the stuff he's doing on the creative side for Wizards. But he's just, God, he's sharp, and he always seems to know what's going on. I think maybe because he helped write the worlds, you know, like he literally eats, sleeps, and breathes D&D. Like even since he was like 10 years old, like he was writing submissions to Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine. And that's actually how he got his job in Wizards, was just from submitting user content long enough that he got noticed and started writing for them, and then eventually became one of the leads. But he's also like so humble and just a really gracious guy. So yeah, I love Chris
met
Perkins.
him.
You met him?
Met him out in PAX 18.
What?
Yeah.
Like face to face?
Yeah, well, it was a line, but yeah, we got to spend a couple minutes. They had an AC Inc. Autograph session, and
cool.
The line was not, it was like a third full for what they were expecting. So they were taking all the time, taking pictures with people. Yeah, I got his signature on two things. I got a motivational poster from Acquisitions Incorporated. It's what the hell? That's Omen drawn. Looking over, standing on a cliff, looking over. I'm looking at it right now. It's on my wall. Looking over a sea. He's got his hand up to shield his eyes from the sun. And there's this little kid behind him carrying about 300 pounds of gear in this sack. And the inspirational poster says, "Leadership, because you have to do what I tell you." And so, yeah, right there, it says, "Have a magical day, Chris Perkins."
Oh, that's sweet. Was he wearing a baseball cap?
I am positive he must have been. He he usually is for those things.
I think like always, yeah.
Yeah. And then I also, before I went out there, I knew that I was going to make time for this in my day. I brought a fresh 5th edition player's handbook and got them all to sign the inside cover. So I've got one on display and I got one hidden.
Cool.
Yeah.
Your secret power.
Yeah. Was it just Chris Perkins? Got anybody else?
Well, no, I mean, I don't know. These are all pretty low-hanging fruit, but honestly,
Oh yeah.
the inspiration that I would give the most credit to would be Chris Perkins, Matthew Mercer, of course, and the whole Crit Roll team. Like, they're all.
I have not watched much of that.
That's okay. It's waiting for you, and when you do, you're gonna love it because they're all such
sure I
beautiful
will.
people, and they love each other so much. And on top of that, they're all like amazing actors and voice artists.
All voice actors mostly, right?
Yeah, they're all
not-
voice actors. Yep.
Oh yeah, they do. But like Joe, what's his name? He was in
Joe Manganiello. Well, he's not one of the main cast. He's like he joined them for a little while.
Oh, okay. Well, he's
but
what
yeah.
I remember seeing a bunch of times. It seems like he must have been on the times I was tuning in, like that sort of stretch.
Maybe, yeah. And
He
he's
was on,
he's really
True
big
Blood.
into like his own brand. Like he has like a company called I don't remember. It's like I'm gonna fuck you up D&D or something. It's like death saves. It's called Death Saves.
Oh,
and
those are roughly the same.
pretty much.
I'm gonna fuck you up, D&D.
But I mean, Joe
Death Saves-
Manganiello is awesome. Like he's been a great ambassador for D&D, and he DMs a game too, like in his basement with a bunch of like Hollywood people.
He was he went on Colbert and they were nerding out
Yep.
about D&D. That was awesome.
He's cool. But Matt Mercer is a lot like Chris Perkins. They both have that same like deep empathy for like their audiences and their players and just everyone. And you can tell, and it seeps into how they act on and off camera. It's just great.
Yeah, I watched. I guess it was Jeremy Crawford. No, wait, it was Perkins out in 18. That was one of not the last show, but one of the last shows that Chris Perkins did with AC Inc.
Yeah.
AC Inc. is where I started for 5th edition at least. I don't know. I must have just been. I wasn't working as much. I didn't have my full-time job then, so I had more downtime, and I was just kind of getting interested in D&D and this and that. And I'd always been a fan of Penny Arcade, and I'd already been out to 1 PAX, and I kind of wanted to look. And so I just jumped in, and it must have been during one of the big PAX shows where they stream everything on Twitch, and I watched on my computer 2,500, 3,000 people pile into Benaroya Hall in Seattle to watch this live game of D&D being played.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's unbelievable energy. These guys are all really funny. They're on it. They're nerding out. They're in costume, things like that. So that's when I started sort of paying attention. And I went back and listened to their entire AC Inc. archives. They started it started the whole thing as a promo for 4E. It was Jeff Callis, I think his name is one of the main managers at Penny Arcade, had written an email or written a letter to Wizards of the Coast saying, hey, do you want to do like a podcast with our Penny Arcade guys playing? You could bring somebody over to DM. And it was Chris Perkins. It was Jerry Holkins and Mike Krahulik. And I think Scott Kurtz might have been there from
he was there
Player
too,
versus Player.
Yep.
And they have a picture of, and I still hold this, I treasure this. They have this picture of the 4 or 5 of them in what was this tiny little break room with all of these boom mics set, or just like big boom arms.
Yeah.
And like clamped down to this desk so they couldn't get away. And there's just no room to do anything. And they're all just sitting
Sounds
there playing.
familiar.
Yeah, right? That's how this whole thing started for them. And I'm like, that is perfect, because we did almost the same thing, just junkier gear.
Okay, I got 2 more for you. I got 2 more real quick.
All right.
The third one would be the Adventure Zone folks, the McElroy brothers and their dad. They're amazing, and their episodes are short, and they're all just like mind-blowingly funny and creative. And they've been a lot of inspiration for me for a lot of the stuff that we do.
Nice.
Except that they keep their episodes really short again, so like that, it's kind of a different format, but it's worth a listen for sure. And then lastly, it's not a D&D podcast or a group, but the guys who do Hello from the Magic Tavern, the improvers out of Chicago. God, names. Sorry, I've had some Duluth Cider Company cider, and it's a Sunday night, and our baby is teething right now. But anyway, those guys from Hello from the Magic Tavern, they're so wonderful. Their podcast is just a talk show, but it's an improv fantasy talk show. And the whole gist of it is that this guy named Arnie, he fell through a portal behind a Burger King that dumped him out into the magical land of Foon, where he found himself in this tavern called the Vermilion Minotaur, and he sets up his podcast equipment there, and he still gets a faint Wi-Fi signal through the portal back to the Burger King. And so he just interviews people in this tavern every week, and they've done like 200 episodes, and they're all just like comedy gold.
Nice.
With different improvers. They're actually the same folks who do the Jackbox games. Like Arnie Niekamp works for Jackbox, and so you hear a lot of the same voices from those games on the podcast.
I suppose, yeah.
But it's really fun, so it's worth listening to for sure.
All right.
So that's what I got for you. I have a question in character. Back to Twin Portals, Scott.
Sure.
Where do you think Swoj is headed in game? If you were to take the adventure outside of Waterdeep, where would be fun for you to explore?
Oh man. I honestly don't know. I as far as where Swoj is headed, we are gonna beeline to getting Lark back. However it's gonna take, whatever the means is, if we have to sell Troll Skull Manor to do it, I think that's what the team will probably end up focusing on until something shiny comes along and we get distracted.
Well, most resurrection spells take a diamond to cast, so
yes,
there you go. Maybe something shiny is exactly what you need.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful. And take the adventure outside of Waterdeep. I don't know as much about Forgotten Realms. Waterdeep, Neverwinter, Sword Coast. Those are about the things I know as far as it goes, because I haven't dug.
It doesn't have to be Forgotten Realms, though. It could be like, who knows where, somewhere completely different.
Adventure outside. I can only kind of wrap my head around 5e rules at this point. So I have a hard time. I don't want to go into the sky because we've done that already.
Okay, well, I guess I'll scratch that adventure idea.
And yeah, get that out of your head.
You don't like my sewer adventures?
The sewer adventures I'm actually kind of more into. I liked the city stuff.
Sure.
And it's because my favorite characters are skill monkeys. We kind of talked about your joy of the bard, and because they can kind of do everything. One of my favorite characters that I ever did was a rogue who I think got to level 9, and he was just expertise in like 2 or 3 or 4, something like that. Just, it was ridiculous. He had all sorts of these skills. Basically, he just couldn't cast magic, and that was about it.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of, when I think about the games I've played, the city games have a lot because it's so dense. It's like block to block. There's different shops, different people, sewers, rooftops, things like that. Forests, it's a little harder. It's kind of more, okay, and you travel for 6 hours. Give me an example. What sort of other possibilities would you see outside of, when you say outside of Waterdeep?
Well, I just mean like would whether as Scoot and as Swoj or just as you as a player, would you like to go like another dimension, or like a cyberpunk setting, like you were saying, or like
I still have such PTSD from that time I tried to play Shadowrun. I did really like the Zyquil Outland.
Okay.
That dream world, because
spooky Waterdeep, because it reminded me of playing a Stratholme, I think it was, in World of Warcraft. Really?
Was that the big city that got wrecked by all of the...
By Arthas?
Yeah, by Arthas.
Yeah. Yep. And
so that's what I always pictured in my head when he talked about the purple, because I think there was like a purple glow in World of Warcraft too. I like that. I like the magical door. I like having a point A, a point B, a point C. If I have maps and things like that, and we don't have to take time to discuss all of the options for alternate routes, things like that. If I can see those things for myself, then I enjoy having those options. But otherwise, it's like, I'm boring. It's like, put me in a room, give me something to solve. We didn't solve it. The whole party's dead.
Okay, yeah. So, are you speaking as Scott now, or as Scoot, or both?
As Scott. As Scoot. Scoot doesn't think that far ahead. Scoot just wants to get back on the boat. He wants to take a nice long nap under the splintered stairs. Wants to get Lark back. Somewhere in that order.
All right. Cool. I love it. You just gave me an idea. Thank you.
Let's see. Do you have a favorite live D&D moment? Ours or anyone else's?
Moment. Okay, well, I'll start with anyone else. I think my favorite live D&D moment... Well, gosh, I don't know. I'm thinking of Ack Inc. moments because there are so many gems.
Yeah, that's where I'm at
Yeah.
for the most part, too.
There's a few that pop into my head. There's the dinosaur race in Port Nyanzaru in the beginning of their Tomb of Annihilation campaign.
Yep.
That one's pretty crazy. And then there's the sequel to the dinosaur race where they drop a Triceratops into a jungle and like I don't remember what all happens. I think like Jim Darkmagic fights a T-Rex in the sky or something, and like I don't know, it's just bonkers. A lot of stuff, man. As far as our game, favorite moments, goodness gracious. I think for me, like sadistically, my favorite moments are when like we're pretty lighthearted through most of our gameplay, you know.
Yeah.
But occasionally, like it gets serious, and when it does get serious, it's usually like on a dime, like something happens that's like really a big deal to you guys, and like you, all four of you, pretty much universally like share those emotions, and like you like look at each other, and like podcast doesn't pick it up, but like there's these moments of like shock and silence and just like group like oh my god together, and like you all take it so seriously, and that to me as a DM is just like waves of endorphins washing over me. Like it's so great. I'm like, yes, what are they gonna do? Oh boy. Like regardless of the outcomes, like those are my favorite moments.
I remember, that live show when Lark disintegrated, and then you said, "Scoot," and we're all just like,
That one actually was less.
What?
That one, honestly, like I was a bit melancholy too. Like I wasn't anticipating Lark dying that episode, so when it happened, I was sad too. I was kind of grieving with you guys. It's like,
oh man,
but,
it's like we need a break, but we only got 4 minutes left in this theater.
Yeah, well, we got a break now.
Let's see, so favorite live D&D moments.
Yeah.
For live D&D, there was it's probably because I saw this in person, but when Rothfuss at the 2018 PAX West, they just kicked off the show. They were talking to this powerful figure, Patrick Rothfuss, playing the rogue bard, I think Viari, tried to pickpocket, I think it was, and ended up getting shanked.
That was Jarlaxle. That was a character from our campaign. Yeah.
Was it?
Yes.
I had been so long. I don't remember.
Go on, though.
So Rothfuss takes something like 70 points of poison damage, has 1 hit point left, and they are about 7 minutes into a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
And that dude never got healed.
And that was one of those moments for me, like where I like my awe and amazement at Chris Perkins as a DM, just like my jaw hit the floor, because like he played it so smoothly, and like I think he rolled some dice for damage behind the screen, but I don't think he was really looking at them. He was just like, he checked Pat's health, and was like, Pat, you take 70 damage,
Oh yeah.
And it was so smooth, like Pat's face, it was beautiful.
And my respect also goes to Rothfuss, because he used that in the character the whole time. And I don't know if you just have some sort of immense trust with the DM and his story. Are you positive that your character is not going to get killed off? Because you are now still playing a game with 1 hit point, and you could be out pretty fucking fast. I think how I would handle that. And I would have just been like, all right, stop the game. I need to be healed. I just would have freaked out about it,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe for Ack Inc., like their whole like framework is that they have enough powerful resources at hand to like resurrect anyone who dies if they need to. So really, death isn't a concern. It's more just like whether they're going to get paid or get a promotion. I don't know. It's like different motivations, maybe.
Yeah, that's really good stuff too. That's all in that Ack Inc. book that they put out too.
Yep.
As far as my own events, and this wasn't in live, but I'm just going to talk about this. This was just home game stuff, but I'm going to talk about it anyways, because I feel like it's, we're playing Curse of Strahd. And if you're unfamiliar, Strahd's a vampire. We're fighting Strahd. Vampires are badass. We're all about level 9. I've got a robe of many things on, which has all these little patches on it. When you peel it off, like you peel off a bag of gold, well, you got 50 gold in your hand now, a bag of 50 gold. We're trying to take on Strahd. I peel off a hole. It's a pit.
Yep.
And you take this patch off, you throw it on the ground, and then a 10-foot pit opens up. I take this off, I throw it underneath Strahd, he falls down a 10-foot pit, and then the druid casts Moonbeam, and now he can't transform into anything, and he's stuck 10 feet down, and we're just stabbing him with spears until he's dead.
Oh, God, that's brutal. I had a question for you.
Sure.
From your perspective, whether this is Scoot or Scott talking, is Lark, capital D, dead?
Absolutely not. You know what? And Scott says no. And Scott's the producer.
Okay. Go on.
As I piss off the DM. I don't know how much experience Scoot has with resurrection.
True. Good point.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, because magic is everywhere, but I've been kind of stuck on a boat for the better part of my life, or just sitting on the docks mending rope and shit like that. So I think we've probably seen enough weird shit, like dragons living underwater, and
yeah, that's definitely the weirdest thing you've seen.
And doppelgangers and all this, you know.
Pain deer?
Yeah. Oh, the pain deer. Oh, Critsum, still my favorite. I think he believes there's got to be a way, but he doesn't know how. And so how do you make that happen? You know, I'm walking around with somebody who's not from this dimension, who's super powerful, and someone who's dead.
Yeah. I feel like that should kind of be like, maybe I shouldn't influence you guys' decision making, but like you literally do have someone in your party who was dead. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
I thought was dead. Does she have like a beating heart and functioning circulatory?
You haven't really investigated
system?
that too closely yet.
There was something to do. I had somebody to go stab.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all
the questions I really had.
Yeah, I got some notes here. This is productive from a story perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'll have my file and your file, and I'll put the files together. I'll figure out whose is bigger, and then we'll wrap them up real tight and send it out to the world. Okay. Yeah, we'll rub files together.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about how are we going to keep this going?
The show, the podcast?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think we just got to get together and record at some point. Like, if we're not able to be around people doing creative stuff for the coming months, like some people are saying, then I think we just have to sit down together and make a plan to record a slightly less high audio fidelity podcast and just keep the story going, you know? I don't know what else we can do. We could try to spread our equipment around and work it from home that way, but I don't know. It might be tough.
For the listeners, we had talked about doing this. We had talked about recording either in like Zoom or Discord. We use Discord a lot. Join the Discord. You'll find us on there. Sharing Animal Crossing prices. But there's a part of me that really thinks let me start this over. A month ago, before everything really went to shit, I had thought this was a huge moment for this group, and I really want the energy of us together trying to figure this out, because trying to do this in separate rooms, looking at separate monitors, and trying to connect on a human level about our friend disintegrating, I think it was going to kind of take a hit, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted it to be genuine to capture that, because we haven't had many of those opportunities. So I would ideally like for all of us to get together, but we just don't know when that's going to be possible again.
Maybe the next time Swoj does get together, you guys are going to be like in character, you're all going to be oddly more resilient and more resolved and more used to taking the hits in life. Not just because of Lark's death, but because of some weird external force that's made you all tougher people and more emotionally durable. And there'll be a marked shift in the campaign. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, shit. That was something else I was going to ask. I can't remember what it was. Oh, you know what? we've talked about it. How are you doing, Matías? How are you doing with all of this stuff?
I'm okay. I can, honestly, like, it's tough. It's tough for everyone. For me and Angela and Eliza and Sylvie, it's been pretty good. Like, we're both working from home. We both still have our jobs. Eliza's healthy. We're all healthy. So I'm super happy to have more time with my family.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. It's like, if this hadn't happened, I don't know if I would ever have this time that I have right now, you know, where, like, we're together every day for so long. It's actually like really amazing.
It's amazing what's important now.
Yeah. So that's a huge gift on its own right there. And I can't complain about anything else. Yeah. Really tired all the time. I'm working super late because taking care of a baby while working is really tough.
Well, you're also playing a lot of Apex Legends and Warframe.
Well, after like 11 p.m., which is part of why I'm tired also. yeah, you know, I'm not saying I'm not like getting myself into more trouble, but that's a choice.
The cider will help put you to sleep.
The cider is so good. Duluth Cider, guys, they have a drive-in,
walk
up window. Yeah, it's worth it.
Yep.
What about you, Scott? How are you doing?
It's been interesting. I work at Essentia Health, and it seems like every day I don't know what's going to happen. I help install pacemakers, and we had joked, it's called electrophysiology is the term. Yeah. And we had joked that EP always stands for elective procedures. And so when you hear about all these elective cases being canceled, you're like, well, shit, that's me. But then it never really happened. And we've got docs who want to do all the cases because they know in a couple of weeks they won't be able to. We got docs who don't want to do any of the cases because they don't want anybody to get COVID. And it seems like every day at work, I'm wondering, I guess I just don't know what's going to happen. And it's
pretty chaotic.
It's stressful, but I traditionally do not see many patients in the course of a day. In a busy day, I might see 3 patients. So it's comparatively low chance from catching anything compared to the crazy places. You know, I say it's scary, but I don't work in the scary places.
Right.
So that's the thing. You know, and it gets freaky when it's like, okay, here's your N95 mask. You can wear this all day and then re-sterilize it, but don't touch the front of it and don't touch your face and don't touch that, and make sure you wash your hands 40 times before noon, stuff like that. It's a little crazy. So to have this little escape is nice. As soon as I get home, it's like I strip off my clothes, I jump in the shower, I turn it up good and high, whole body wash, this and that, just because I just got to try to do what I can. But it's a freaky time we're living in. But I am working still. My department's just now going to 1 week on, 1 week off, so I'll have some time to chill out next week.
Oh, good.
So, but I'm going to load up my iPad with Avatar episodes this week and watch a bunch of those.
I've never seen that. I keep hearing that it's amazing.
It's pretty good, and I think you'll especially like it watching it with Eliza for the first time. It's a Nickelodeon product.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I think you maybe save it for that. Save it for when it's time for Eliza.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
exciting. And
then you can all share that experience together. I can confidently say it's very good.
And I'm pumped.
Yeah. I was going to, Jamie watches it with her kids. That's the other thing is Jamie, we don't live together, and I have not seen her it will be 5 weeks on Tuesday.
Ugh.
We have not been in each other's presence. The last time we were together was St. Patrick's Day. And then we were going to get together that weekend afterwards. But she said, you know what? They got this pandemic thing going on. So maybe keep your hospital germs at your house for a little bit. So, but we play a bunch of Ticket to Ride and we video chat when we can. I mean, we were playing a game of Ticket to Ride. She kicked my ass by 40 points just before I started recording this. Oh yeah. She had a bad run though. She had a bad run. She lost the last 3 games before this one. Okay. So I've got at least 2 more ass kickings coming up. That's how it is. So I'm going to shut this off and then get my ass kicked by her yet again. It's going to be fantastic.
Cool. Lovely.
What do you think? Is that it?
I say we let everyone else have a peaceful day and go our own.
Yes.
merry
Thank
ways.
you. Thank you for continuing to listen and download. I'm sorry there's not more to listen to right now, but we're still kind of trying to figure this all out, and we want to do it, but we want to be safe and kind of want to be true to the storytelling and the emotions. Maybe I just need to get over it, and we'll do it. We'll figure it out remotely, because
that's getting back to what we were talking about. You just got to make the choice. You just got to go boldly
well,
forward.
While I want that emotional hit of us realizing Lark is gone, it's been a fucking month and a half. There's only so much we can capture at this point. We're gonna have to.
I think everyone's gonna be emotional. I feel emotional right now, just like talking to you, Scott.
It's not gonna be the same as it should be, but it's gonna be what we got.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get something. We'll work out the technical kinks, and we'll get something recorded maybe mid-May. Have it up to listen to by end of May, especially if I'm taking a few weeks off of work here. That'd be fantastic for my productivity. As long as I don't get sucked into The Witcher or Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I haven't bought Final Fantasy VII though, so we got that going on. And one more time, if you feel like jumping on, chatting about games with us, obviously we're into it. Join the Discord. The link will be in the description of this podcast here. You can just find us. You know what? Look around. You know where we are. All right, man.
All right. Much
Have
love.
a good one. Yeah. Thanks for chatting with us, Matías. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Peace.
Have a good rest of your month. We'll see you later. Bye.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Yep.
That's the outro transition.
Yep. I might just leave it like that.
Perfect.
Twin Portals is produced and edited by Scott Hebert. The adventure is created by our Dungeon Master Matías Valero, and the rest of the Silver Waves of Justice are played by Kendra Carlson, Beth Brophy, and Justin Peck. After you've marked this episode as played in your podcast program, make sure you subscribe to our friends at Horror Rewind, The Nearest Stars, and take it with you. This activity is made possible in part by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council thanks to a legislative appropriation from the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Thank you to Leeland Campana for use of his song Avernum as our theme song, and thank you to the Renegade Theater Company, Teatro Zacconi, and Mary Fox for supporting us and giving us a place to record. Speaking of, Zeitgeist could really use your support during these times. They have always been a generous and welcoming host to us, and we would really appreciate if you could find your way to their social media so you can learn about how you can support them. Finally, we just want to say that we hope all of our wonderful listeners are staying safe out there. Take care of yourself and take care of someone else. The picture I have in my head right now is Deadpool and Colossus and Deadpool 2 right at the end when he picks him up and the music's playing.
Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Deadpool 2?
No.
All right.
You must.
Well,
Really? Okay.
that's thanks for listening to the podcast. We have shit to do.
Yeah, go watch Deadpool 2.
We're going to get Matías
Celine
educated.
Dion.
Pause right now.
Yeah.
Come back in an hour and 45 minutes,
See you in a bit.
and you'll understand that reference.
All right.